Hi, my name is Tanya. I am from Walyalup or Fremantle in Western Australia. My mentor was Lucy Bardos. Thank you, Lucy. And this is my design project. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the Whadjuk people who are the traditional owners and carers of this land where I live and where my design site is. About me, well, I love nature, I love the outdoors, I love to go swimming at our local beach. I enjoy people and speaking different languages, and I love to dance. Life before permaculture. Oh, I'm blocking my little photo here. So here I am. I originally studied business and I worked for about 20 years or more in strategic human resource management and labour relations or employee relations. And then I had a career change. I undertook studies, postgraduate studies in sustainability, and I undertook research in placemaking and in how the community can participate in creating sustainable residential developments. And I also worked in community development for a local municipality, which I really enjoyed. So my design thesis. Well, my current home is my design site. And this is a place that my husband Adam and I bought in 2018. It was an old wooden workers' cottage that was really, really run down. It was built in 1895 and is heritage listed. And our design vision was to bring it back to life and to create a place that welcomes our friends and family, our neighbours, a place that also welcomes the native fauna, such as the birds, the native bees, and the lizards, which we see a lot of on site. Our goals essentially are to respect natural boundaries and to be a little bit more self-reliant, particularly in relation to food, water, and energy, and to contribute to our community. I also had a personal goal to learn how to use Procreate. And so I've created all my design maps in Procreate, and all the illustrations that you see are also done in Procreate. And basically we want to live more in sync with nature and with the cycles and rhythms of nature. So here is the geographical context for my map, or for my site. Australia is on this map on the left, and I live in the state of Western Australia in the capital city called Perth. And then this map on the right is a zoomed in section of the Perth metropolitan region. And you can see the Perth city centre here is on the river. And at the end of the river, going out into the ocean, is the city where I live, which is Fremantle or Walyalup, and it is a port city and it's an operating port. And where this X is here is more or less where our design site is. These are some photos of our property when we first purchased it. It was very run down, and it had a lot of concrete slabs around it. So we don't have a zones map to show you how our patterns of movement were around the house or on the site before we moved here. Instead, I've created a map to show that there are two main buildings, and that most of the site is covered in concrete paving, with some large trees out the back as well. Now, the zones map since we've moved in, and since we've, well, our intention is to use the site in this way. You'll see our zone 1s are very close, zone 1 and 2 are very close to the house, which is usual. And it does extend though out into the local beach. That's our zone 2. In summertime, we do visit the beach daily, And in wintertime, we also visit it regularly, although perhaps not daily, but definitely weekly. Our base map shows that we have a street at the front of our property and at the rear, though the street at the rear is not really practically accessible because it is over 2.5 metres higher than the ground level of our site. The access paths map shows that there's a concentration of movement in the centre of our site, and that is or has impacted on our design ideas for the back garden. In the sectors overview map, the main things that sort of stand out are some of the overlooking sectors here and up the front, and then also the summer afternoon cooling sea breeze that we get from the southwest, and which has the capacity to cool down the house in the evenings. So we really want to take advantage of that sector. Now on to water systems. I've noted a few water flow issues on this map, but really the biggest issue is that our city has had a huge decline in rainfall and less rainfall runoff running into our dams. So our design solution for this is to have a rainwater tank on site, and also to use grey water on site and bore water for our garden. Now onto edges and microclimates. These two maps here show microclimates in winter and summer, and they also include a little tropical zone that's next to the rainwater tank, which I'm sitting in front of now. And the tropical zone is created because the rainwater tank provides protection from the strong southwesterly sea breeze, and also provides some warm thermal mass during winter. And here are my tropical plants about to get ready for planting in the future. Some other edges that I've talked about are physical, natural, and social. In relation to social, there is a wall that we pulled down between our house and our westerly neighbour, and now we have a place for some spontaneous and incidental interaction with them, which has been great for developing neighbourly connections. Patterns in my process. I've identified these 3 patterns that I have used throughout my design process. Mind maps, I've enjoyed using the original mind mapping technique by Tony Buzzen, and concentric shapes, as well as the Overbeck jet. As I mentioned earlier, I like to use mind maps, and here is a mind map of some of the components for our built environment, and I've grouped them by design solution. This schematic shows some of the connections between some of the components in our design. Here you can see the rain going into the rainwater catchment of the rainwater tank, and then the supply to the toilet and washing machine inside the house, as well as the toilet outside, and future supply to the solar hot water system. Then the grey water from inside the house will come from laundry sink, bathroom sink, and the washing machine, and go outside into the garden. Another component that I've described in detail is the Hills Hoist washing line, which is an Australian invention, and we have an old Hills Hoist in our backyard. Here it is. And we're going to use it with a stacking function of providing shade to our veggie patch, and hopefully a gazebo for entertaining so that we get shade, and of course for drying our clothes. I've listed some of our values here in relation to the built environment, our environmental values, our social values, and our cultural values, such as maintaining a sense of place and preservation of heritage. Here I've detailed some of the reuse of materials from the old house that was dismantled, and I've also provided photos of how we're beginning to reuse the materials or how we plan to reuse them. Another mind map, this time the components for the natural environment. This provides a detail for my 7-layer food forest, from the overstory canopy through to the ground covers and roots and vines. And then I've just listed a few other components such as composting, garden storage, workspaces, and sorting and holding areas. This map shows the placement of our plants and trees and things in the garden. And what we've learnt, or what I've learnt from the site observations, is that some of the ideas that we originally had were not really suitable. We've changed a couple of things, like we're going to bring the fruit fly vulnerable trees closer to the house where we pass daily. So trees such as the fig and nectarine will go here. And in this area here on the eastern boundary, which is a very hot spot in summer and receives shade in winter from the trees on the north of it, we were going to have our veggie patch, but we've realised it's not suitable. So instead we're going to use it as a citrus grove, and they will thrive there with all the sun. And another mind map. So this mind map describes some of the human, natural and built resources that we have and that are available to us in designing and in implementation on site. And then our social and invisible structures, such as the challenge of maintaining a balance between chaos and order while renovating and building. And some of the structures that support us, such as neighbours and locals, family and friends, who are an important part of our mental, emotional, physical and spiritual well-being. I've designed this zone map of my inner landscape. The zones closest to me are the areas of self-care, and then moving outwards to family and close friends, close communities such as our local community and people we share passions with, and then the wider community. Then in the area of technology and energy, my design includes for reducing our carbon footprint, passive cooling and heating elements, and reducing electromagnetic exposure. And some future goals that we have are to experiment with some low-tech food preparation and cooking techniques, and also low-tech cool storage for our food. Transportation. We want to move to a walking and biking culture, which we have already started to do. And because of that, we've managed to get rid of one vehicle already. So we've now sold a car and we just have one car. And we'd like to walk and bike for our daily trips that are around 2 kilometres or less, or use public transport if it's raining. In terms of waste, nutrient cycles and animals, we want to eliminate waste as much as possible, and doing things such as composting and setting up a larger composting area. We also want to harvest and save seeds for replanting. And we want to undertake some soil remediation and improvement and learn more about our soil and how to care for it. Animals, we don't have any animals yet, but we would like to get a dog, and we would like to get some urban farm type animals, such as maybe some chooks or ducks and perhaps even a goat. We need to investigate the responsibilities of care in relation to having animals on our site. The next 4 slides are our implementation phases. Phase 1 is what we have completed so far while we've kept designing. Phase 2 focuses on our energy and water technologies. Phase 3, which is to commence this year, is continuation of built works and the internal fit out of the house, as well as starting on some more garden works. Phase 4, there's a focus on providing for our native fauna, such as the native bees, frogs, and birds and lizards, as well as planting some bush foods and some edible flowers. Now, the appendices. First, we have our plant and species list, some community conversations that we've had, such as considerations of our neighbours' requests and their needs, as well as how we interact beyond our site. We've got a personal boundaries assessment in Appendix 3, which includes details about our privacy, wellness, material and financial boundaries. And a maintenance plan, which includes the use of a biodiary, keeping to the 6 seasons of the Whadjuk Noongar people, the lunar cycle, a weekly schedule and monthly calendar and daily diary for me, and a species management and maintenance spreadsheet. Finally, Appendix 5 includes my evaluation and gratitude. And in closing, I'd like to thank Lucy Bardos for being a wonderful teacher and mentor to me. I'd like to thank Heather for this amazing course that you've put together and all the resources and the website. Truly beautiful and so engaging and enjoyable. Thank you. And I'd like to share that what I've learned from studying permaculture is that it's not about creating a garden in your backyard. It's much more than that. It's about the interconnectedness of life and creating a garden of life. Thank you so much. Bye.